Welcome to today's North Central IPM Center Pests in Progress series. My name is Laura Isles. I'm one of the co-directors of the North Central IPM Center. We're one of 4 regional IPM centers supported by USDA and NIFA Crop Protection Pest Management. We have a mission to coordinate IPM across the region, and today we're happy to hear from Christian Krupke, who's going to talk about his program at Purdue University. So I'll let you take it away, Christian.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Hello, everyone. What I'm going to do today is give a broad overview of our extension implementation programs as they relate to IPM at Purdue University. And you can see there's a number of names here on the slide representing several different disciplines related to pest management. I'm going to talk about these in turn and give an overview of each of our topic areas, each of our goals, and then talk a little bit about how we deliver IPM information to our stakeholders and some of the feedback that we get from them in terms of how well we're meeting the mark and addressing some of their needs and some of their questions. So first of all, just to introduce each objective and team member, our largest single group, of course, given that we're in Indiana, is IPM implementation in agronomic crops. That's our largest land use in Indiana by far. And that group includes myself, plant pathologist, Dr. Darcy Telenko, and weed scientist, Dr. Bill Johnson and Tommy Butts. Our next objective area is IPM implementation for specialty crops, and that includes Dr. Laura Ingwell and Dr. Elizabeth Long, both in the Department of Entomology. IPM in communities is our third area, includes entomologist Douglas Richmond, Barry Pittendry, and Laura Ingwell, and plant pathologist Lee Miller. And finally, our pollinator health objective, which is led by Dr. Brock Harper and includes our extension specialist, Crispin Given. And I should mention that everyone on this slide, all the names on this slide, all have some substantial extension appointments. So that's a big part of what we do and is sort of baked into all of our applied research programs is this extension component, as you'll see in the next few slides. So a little more detail on agronomic crops. This, of course, is a map of Indiana, and you see that Indiana is very intensively agricultural. This is a USDA NAS image where we've shaded in green the soybean acreage and in sort of a yellow maize color the corn acreage. And so Indiana's in the top 5 in both of those commodities. So what we do in these crops affects everyone that lives in Indiana at some level in some dimension. So that's why we've sort of made this our main focus of our efforts. So as many of you watching will know, modern corn and soybean production doesn't have a lot of decision points. It's changed a lot, especially in the last couple of decades. For example, almost all of our corn and soybeans are herbicide tolerant, typically tolerant to multiple herbicide modes of action. Most corn expresses multiple Bt toxins for insect management. That includes both above and below ground insect pests. And most of those seeds, almost all corn and the majority of soybeans are treated with insecticide and fungicide prior to planting. So this is kind of gives you the framework of how IPM has to start out. This is the foundation for IPM in these crops. Finally, in season, foliar sprays of fungicide and insecticide, usually fungicide, and the insecticide is often an add-on. Those are applied usually based on plant growth stage instead of pest presence. So these are often sort of just in case, prophylactic insurance sort of sprays. And what I have here is not, of course, absolute. Not every single corn and soybean field in Indiana has these 4 things happening, but it captures the vast majority of what's going on out there. Now, our specific goals here, we have 2 broad goals, and they're very broad to allow us to move around within them. One of them is educating pest managers to not become overly reliant on these relatively few approaches, these relatively few modes of action. So long-standing IPM fundamental tenet is to use pesticides when necessary, rotate pesticides, avoid resistance, non-target effects, and so on. That all is baked into that one. The second one has taken center stage more recently, and this is these new Endangered Species Act restrictions in terms of pesticide use and educating our pest managers and commercial applicators on how to stay in compliance with this law, how to use pesticides, particularly the herbicides, near sensitive areas. Some highlights from the last year or so. One project that features myself, Dr. Bill Johnson, and Darcy Telenko focuses on this emerging trend of planting soybeans early. We all know that springs are coming earlier. One silver lining to that dimension of our changing climate is that we can plant crops earlier. There are many studies that have shown that soybeans planted earlier translate into better yields. What we looked at is the pest management aspects of that. One of our key findings so far, and this is an ongoing project, is that early season insecticidal seed treatments are less likely to move into the plant than later in season. So that was kind of counterintuitive and suggests that for early planted beans, when insects are a concern, there is not likely to be an enhanced pest management benefit. If anything, you probably have a little bit less likelihood of having pest management efficacy in those early season, those cool soils, and those plants aren't growing as quickly. Early planted soybeans showed an increased risk for root rot. So that's an element where we look at the fungicide component of seed treatments, and this reflects that they are likely, in some cases, to be more useful, more critical, a form of insurance that should be considered for that early season planting. In terms of weed management, Dr. Johnson and Butts did some work showing that cereal rye and crimson clover cover crops with residual herbicides reduced early season weed biomass. There's an increased emphasis on crops, increased interest in cover crops. That doesn't mean we can get away with no weed management in terms of herbicides, but this project connected those two dots. Similarly, or sort of a corollary of that is research into drone-based spraying, where some of these same producers, some of these same operations are embracing drone-based targeted sprays for areas where weeds are patchy or in pockets, and that's been shown to support this site-specific herbicide application. That is also helpful for staying in compliance with those ESA requirements in terms of buffer areas and herbicide applications. We engage with stakeholders many different ways throughout this objective, a lot of face-to-face meetings. I didn't add up all of our county extension meetings, but I'm confident that it's dozens across the team. Lots of field days, conferences, podcasts. There's many opportunities to engage face-to-face and through these other media, including newsletter articles and videos and so forth. One example here, this is our sort of one of our signature events every January. Been going for many years. It's moved since COVID to mostly online, but we still do at least 2 in-person sessions. And as you can see from the numbers here, our attendees value this information. They find it worthwhile. They implement it. They use it. It's something that they apply on the many acres that they manage. We have a specific weed science field day that attracts up to 100 people annually. And is devoted just to weed science research. Graduate students have a lead opportunity in presenting their work at that day. And finally, our Ag Center field days. We have 9 Purdue Ag Centers throughout the state. Not all of them do cover crops, but the vast majority, or field crops, but the vast majority do. And we just finished up the last of those here recently at the end of August. And that attracts up to 1,000 people to hear about pest management updates from, sometimes all of us are there. Some of us are always at these events. Moving into specialty crops. Most people don't think of Indiana as a hotbed of specialty crop production, but we have some real important key specialty crops, including melons. Of course, sweet corn is considered a specialty crop. Peppermint is a specialty crop, very high value. And there's an area where that's grown quite intensively in northern Indiana, northwestern Indiana. The value of these food crops is substantial. These are higher value commodities, of course, than corn and beans. So the calculus changes in terms of pest management recommendations and in terms of the amount of damage or the amount of even cosmetic damage that is acceptable. So it's a very different system than what we just talked about in field corn and soybeans. So our goals here, we kept them the same as our previous, the agronomic crop system, just because it's a lot of the same questions and problems. The implementation and the playing field is quite different, but we still have these two overarching goals that are guiding and including most of our work. So in 24 and 25, one of the highlights that we start off with here is monitoring. Monitoring is as important as ever in specialty crops. It's certainly declined in importance in field crops, but in specialty crops, it's still a key way that producers use to target and time their pesticide applications. We have a Midwest vegetable production guide and a fruit pest management guide that our team contributes to, specifically Dr. Ingwell and Dr. Long contribute to that. And we have active on-farm research plots where we're investigating these, I would say, these emerging trends or something that's getting a lot more attention into agricultural resilience. Some people would say regenerative ag and so on. We have some long-term plots at our Purdue agricultural centers that investigate these ideas, and some of that information is transmitted to our stakeholders through a number of ways, as you see here. 33 new presentations last year across 7 events, about 1,000 attendees. And you can see again, strong numbers in terms of our participant feedback. I have along the bottom here some examples of our recent products. They include going from left to right, a tomato pinworm video. This is a new pest that we're dealing with. Black soldier fly composting, how to do it, what are the do's and don'ts of using this insect for composting, and I've used it. It's fantastic if you're interested in composting effectively, efficiently, quickly. And we have a new extension bulletin published focused on native bee identification in Indiana specialty crops. These are key pollinators of our specialty crops in addition to the familiar honeybees. Some of the other metrics in terms of engagement with our stakeholders, 19 newsletter articles, a lot of those focused on alerts during the season for pest activity, management recommendations, trap counts when they reach thresholds and action thresholds and so on. We reach about 5,000 subscribers with those. 21 new presentations at local, regional, and national growers meetings. And this is across a wide range of types of meetings, a wide range of crops and cropping systems, sometimes to youth, sometimes to established producers of various crops. So this is probably the area that has the most diverse group of attendees, the most diverse group of stakeholders overall, the specialty crops area. Our third emphasis area is IPM in communities, and so this is quite broad. We're looking at plant protection in the green industry, and that includes both homeowners and individuals that take care of areas like green spaces, parks, golf courses, etc. So here, we've guided our efforts, and this is led by Doug Richmond and Lee Miller. The efforts are guided by the response of stakeholders to surveys that ask them, what are your needs? What do you think are the key things that we, Purdue, can supply? 89% of subscribers to the Purdue Landscape Report said pest diagnosis and management. That included 3 of the top 5 needs at the Indiana Green Industry Expo. That's an annual event where members of the team talk about their applied research and as it relates to IPM. And that includes, of course, both insect pests and fungal pathogens for the most part in turf. So how is this being accomplished? Is by a heavy emphasis on digital pest diagnostic tools. That's what this industry wants, responds to, uses effectively. I'm going to talk a little bit about some changes to that. But what you can see here is that we have a couple of areas. We have the Purdue Turf Doctor, which was formerly an app, but has moved into a more flexible digital deployment. And talking about digital IPM, online and correspondence courses for pest management in urban systems, not related to green spaces, so structures, homeowners, and urban and industrial IPM. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. So in terms of our turf side, the Turf Doctor mobile app has been around for several years, downloaded by about 5,000 users. That has been now just recently reconfigured to a web-based platform. That makes it easier to use, more likely for people to access it. I think a lot of people don't think they want another or need another app on their phone. Every place you go, every store you go to, everything you do, they want you to download an app. So I think this is a response to that app fatigue, if that's a thing. And so the net result is it makes the diagnostics easier to use across devices, various platforms, and that's the goal, getting the information into the hands of the people the most efficiently. In terms of how we deliver this training material, so this is for certifications and so on, both new certifications and ongoing renewals for applicators. We have 2 new online IPM courses deployed to help turf professionals, and you should see those on the right side of the screen there. We have 9 updated courses in terms of urban and industrial pest management as well. Over 1,700 participants in those this fiscal year. The Purdue Pest Management Conference is one of the largest gatherings of urban pest management professionals every year. It's been going on for a long time, as you see, about 300 participants this most recent January. And so what those participants do, there's a heavy emphasis on IPM, knowledge of insecticide safety is part of that, pest management practices, and helping them manage turf and home pests more responsibly and effectively. We also, this is kind of unique, have outreach into correctional facilities for training. So while individuals are incarcerated, they can take these trainings and build some skills for when they are released from incarceration so that they can have a leg up on getting a job and having something that they learned at the time that they were imprisoned. Urban agriculture is, we have this under the umbrella of community agriculture. We have a virtual urban farm tour because people would have to travel to urban farms. So, of course, a headache. For some people, it's not an option. We have this urban farm tour throughout the Midwest, and at each farm, we highlight IPM practices. The emphasis is on farmers speaking to farmers. This is facilitated by our group, by a couple of members of our group that work in urban ag, Dr. Laura Ingwell, Dr. Elizabeth Long, and this highlights what urban agriculture is doing in terms of IPM, trying to take that to an area where people don't have to drive to a field day. Our governor and our previous governors have been very interested in workforce development and mapping what we do onto some useful outputs for developing a workforce, training people to be able to do things that are useful in terms of the job market. So we ask some of our participants, is this useful in your job? Can you get a current job? Can you be more prepared in your current job? And the answer is that they are. This is one of a fast growing sector of agriculture. This is something that is, in terms of turfgrass management in particular, is a growth area. As you can see here, a lot of invited presentations and a lot of individuals reached just in the turfgrass training and certification area. Going back to the urban ag for a moment, we had 3 webinars in winter 2025. That is led to and incorporated with collaborations with urban farmers to monitor an emerging pest, the tomato pinworm, a moth that is relatively new to the state and requires applied research, requires some training for individuals to manage this insect and to figure out how to find it, how to know it's there, and then what to do about it. Now, our final emphasis area is IPM for pollinator health. Everybody has heard or knows that we had a rough year for pollinator health in the past year. About 50% of U.S. colonies were lost in the 24-25 overwintering season. Mites, the Varroa mite is the key player there, has been for a long, long time. The Purdue Pollinator Health Group, Dr. Harper and Crispin Given, have long been associated with a breeding program to enhance the natural resistance of the honeybees to varroa mites. So things like enhanced grooming help those insects, help the bees to remove mites from themselves more aggressively, more intensively, and to know which bees have those traits, which queens have those traits, and so on. Genetic tools have been developed. Selective breeding techniques are being developed to help to know which bees we should move forward in breeding lines. That, of course, has these side benefits or knock-on benefits in terms of IPM, reduced reliance on chemical treatments, keeps the all-important pollinator supply viable, durable, and so on. And ultimately, the goal is these healthier colonies that have this durable source of, or this durable defense against the varroa mite, which isn't going anywhere. Clearly, it's something the bees will have to live with for the foreseeable future. So the broad goals of the team are introducing these new technologies to make beekeeping more profitable. So examples of those: best practices for phenotyping, selecting breeding stocks, inseminating queens, and breeding. I'll give some examples of some of those outputs and highlights here. You can see on the right a novel publication, Methods of Introducing Queens, led by our Brock Harper and Crispin Given here at Purdue, and new material on genomic selection to bee breeding training sessions. So using some of these genomic tools and integrating them more rapidly and more accessibly to the stakeholders, to the individuals that are doing all the work of breeding these bees and keeping these bees alive and moving these lines along. One of the main ways that this is disseminated to the stakeholders are beekeeping field days annually. And you can see we get hundreds of beekeepers that come to not to Purdue campus, but not far, just a few miles to the west of our campus, to the Bee Lab, to learn methods in bee breeding and disease monitoring. Also connected with that are training courses that are very popular in instrumental insemination and queen rearing. Some of these have been going for a long time. Some of the other material is newer. It's always updated. It always seems to be very popular, sells out, and a lot of people drive to Purdue, drive to the Bee Lab to learn how to do these things. In terms of engaging with stakeholders, similar to some of our other goals and or some of our other objectives, we value the feedback, pre and post feedback in both online and print format. Some of the sample questions are shown here. We use that data, or we disseminate those surveys at these Purdue Field Days that we talked about earlier. And that profile within the beekeeping community results in a lot of invitations, beekeeping seminars in over 20 states, advising beekeeping group on best practices, and working directly with beekeepers to identify unwanted genotypes. And this is some relatively new work in terms of the history of the Purdue Bee program, is really looking at a high level of resolution at the genetic traits of these bees and how that relates to these phenotypes that we want. For example, mite resistance, but not just mite resistance. Some of our survey data show that our clientele value these interactions. They find it worthwhile overwhelmingly and tend to apply the knowledge. And the estimates indicate that there are a lot of colonies, thousands of colonies managed by our attendees. So we're reaching the people that are taking care of the bees throughout the state. So with that, I will conclude there. We're grateful for the funding support, ongoing support from the USDA CPPM program, and we're hopeful that this information, that this overview has been useful to you, and please feel free to reach out to myself or any of our specialists on any of these topics. We'd be happy to tell you more about what we do and how we do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christian. Great overview of what's going on at Purdue.